Hello everybody. So today was the second walk from west to center and back, and this is part 1. So I've started my walk by capturing this magnificent views from the Andreas Bridge. This is an old bridge, but right now it's reconstructed, and from here you can see the north view, and before that there was the south view. So we see 7 sisters, and those towers, like on the left you can see the tower, one of the 7 sisters, and the next one was on the right. So I'm walking towards this house on this so-called hill, and this is Andreas Bridge. From that hill you can see it's reconstructed, and I wonder how it was working before, if they don't have the center base column in the water. So it's supposed to be at least made of iron steel. So I walked to that house, and as you can see, it's located right on the hill, but it still has buried windows. But in fact those were excavated about 3 to 5 feet of excavation close to the walls, and we can see the difference of where I'm standing is about 5 feet, and here's the view from the side. So to those criticizing and talking about crap on the roads that was flushed into the windows, so people supposed to be like living on the second floor, ask me where's the road here. Okay, so this is actually my pathway. So I started on the Andreas Bridge, and I walked towards the center. So I captured this view one more time for you guys, and so I walked one of the side streets towards the Blushika Street, and I figured this was some of these mud flood hills. It was not excavated by those who inhabited the area. So I supposed I should walk up there and check this out from the top of this area. But in fact I was disappointed, because this was a completely rebuilt house, and it doesn't have no windows on the street view. But if you watch the house on the other side of the street, you can see those windows, and also on the house on this side of the street. So if you tell me this was designed to be like that, I wonder who was the designer, and how much did they pay him for this significant job. Probably this was reconstructed and done this way, and it was probably sometimes like here. So a bunch of masonry and brickwork everywhere, and those windows in the basements look this awful way right now, because they are just buried in the mud. But still the houses are very pretty, as you can see, a round corner and a Tesla coil top on the top of it. So if you look down there, you also see the buried windows, although it looks not that it doesn't have any. Okay, so I walked to the next tower, and it was Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia. It's very cute building, as you can see. It's built by those architects who were working with Stalin, and it was Stalin's idea to build some 7 sisters, and he actually completed his goal, but after that he was murdered. I was talking about those towers in one of my videos, which is called Magical Towers of Moscow, something like this. So I'll leave you a link right now in the description and here. So this is a very magnificent building, and probably supposed to be capturing electricity by atmospheric and so-called Ethereum purposes and acknowledges. But Stalin was murdered and his goal was not completed, and I suppose this is supposed to be the power station for the Moscow, but still. So I walked across the street on this underground pathway, tunnel or whatever. So I came here to Arbat Street, and to the right of this Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and this is Arbat Street, one of the oldest streets in Moscow. At least it's one of the pedestrian streets of Moscow, a very famous one. It was a pedestrian street in Soviet Union also, and before that. So foreigners, the guys that come to Russia as a tourist, like walking around here, and I wonder why not I walk here and maybe find some evidence. And as you know, the Arbat has 2 subway stations, and the closer you go to the subway station, the less evidence you're gonna find. This is in general what I figured in Moscow, because the more expensive the real estate is, the better reconstruction it can be performed. But still we see some of the evidence of the buried windows over there. Also done the ugly way, as you can see. So I returned to Arbat Street and figured I should walk towards the center of the city, towards the Kremlin. So I turned right, and here we go. We have one of the houses with the evidence of unproportional windows of the first floor. So a good renovation probably done, but still they couldn't have hide the construction purposes, the engineer idea. So the house probably supposed to have lower first floor windows, as you can see. And right in front of it is the so-called Pushkin's Museum, also having buried windows. Although the front wall doesn't have any, and they even have some fence over here, so you cannot like touch it and stuff like this. I don't know why. So Arbat is very famous for tourists walking and stuff like this. So you have, most of those guys are Moscow inhabitants, but maybe 30% are foreigners come here to Moscow, and as you can see, they're walking safely with their kids and stuff like this. So nothing's really bad in Russia, and you don't have to be afraid. So just walk here, look at the windows buried in the ground, and you can see them everywhere. I mean everywhere. Although sometimes they reconstructed it very well, you still can see much evidence of buried windows, like over there and over here. They even painted the arc of the ancient wall, ancient house, and I was coming here and looking at all those windows there, and even the downstairs. So I figured I should walk further, and as you can see, this house has pretty columns on the first and second floor. So I just, you know, stared at him for a while, and I figured that this was a reconstructed ancient antique house, which also has buried first and second floors probably. And here's the line where the new construction starts to the top, and the low columns construction is pretty much buried. This is the way to capture the building and don't care. So people living there probably don't know what's going on here. A bunch of fancy houses in Arbat, and it's pretty much a good view street. So plenty of pedestrians, plenty of tourists, and so I came to this, you know, house and seen this 1797. So I figured, where's the buried windows? No windows. So it was kind of disappointing. So I went to this side street and see and check maybe there are some windows over there, because it just cannot be like this. An end of 18th century and no bird windows. So this is my own technology to figure out. If you don't see the bird windows, walk around and you probably find some. This building looks to be buried to me, but still no bird windows here. So walk a little bit to the side, away from tourist paths, and you can find many interesting things, like this house with totally buried first floor, and it's still used by people, and it's used by some cafes and little shops of antiquities. You know, antiquity shops, if you see antiquity shops, it probably has a basement of a buried first floor. They often do that. They often capture all those ancient buildings, and, you know, keep that secret. If you wanna keep that secret, put a mason shop there, sell antiquities. Yeah, and people supposed to say me that this was designed to be like that, right? Here we go with the power station. It's totally reconstructed, as you can see, and although we have no evidence of buried windows on this church, I'll probably walk inside sometime else and see if I can find some evidence. The houses on the other side of the street have plenty of buried windows, but this one doesn't. Probably it has the first floor totally buried, like I've seen on other churches. And they date this church 17th and 18th and 19th century rebuilt, so plenty of dates here. So I'll probably make some other video about churches, which is gonna be especially on churches, and I'll be walking inside the churches and trying to capture the evidence inside the churches and in the yards and outside of the church's walls, so we can see more evidence of using churches as power plants and churches being used a different way that we used to know. Although we can see nothing here, but still, this is not the way to say for sure, because it could be buried with the whole first floor and nothing is, you know, sticking out the ground. Like here we have, just look at this, they just poured the concrete in the window and they supposed to be designed like this. Are you sure? You think the crap won't be leaking inside those windows? Crap from the horses and stuff like this, like in Chicago and New York? No, they just used the older buildings to build the new ones on them, or just reconstructed the first floors, made those stupid ladders, stairs and stuff like this, and stoops to the second floor. So I returned to that house of 1797 and look at what I found. So I'm supposed to be more, you know, serious. And also antiquity shop on the top. Never give up, guys, never give up. If you think this house is old enough, it probably has buried windows and probably have plenty of evidence. Well, that kind of encouraged me to further work and looking around. You know, this old Tartarian style, great Tartarian style, is now called the Neo-Russian style. Neo-Russian is the old great Tartarian. In fact, this was what they trying to erase the memory about the great Tartary, and just sticking us with all those brick, you know, brick hidden walls and brick hidden like this. To the side we can see the door underneath. So all is built with bricks, and we're gonna be talking about bricks in some other video about how to make bricks, how they made so many bricks in the 19th century, 18th century, 17th century. All these metals they used to, you know, melt to create steel and iron and all this stuff. How did they do it? We're gonna make a video about that pretty much soon. And here's one of the prettiest buildings on Arbut Street. It's located to the right. This is this one. Look at this, just a huge 9-story building, and it's soil wall here. Famous Russian prophet singer who was singing different songs about war in the world for 2,000 years, and the earth been cold by sun, so Ra, something like this. So Ra is the son of God, and Russia is the land of Ra. And all this Ra, rainbow, stuff like this. So, and those people just, you know, picturing themselves on this wall to visit this wall, but they don't look around and they don't see these basement floors everywhere, and all those windows from this tremendous building. Look at this building. It's just a whole block is carried with this building, and it's totally having a buried first floors. So they supposed to be building these buildings at the great Tartarian times. How many bricks did they use? How many, you know, concrete did they create? So they supposed to have plenty of factories. Thanks a lot for watching part number 1. We're gonna have part number 2 and probably part number 3 of this walk. So see you later, guys.